It's Friday, July 26, 2013, and let's talk about what happened this week over at xdadevelopers.com. Lots of big news happened this week, so let's go ahead and get started. The biggest news, of course, Google held a press event this week where they unveiled loads of new stuff. The one item that actually made the XDA portal was that Android 4.3 has officially been announced and released to AOSP. Builds for Nexus devices are now available through Google directly. Now you might be asking, what does Android 4.3 entail? Realistically, lots of bug fixes, lots of updates, lots of performance tweaks, things that you're not really going to notice, moving from one to the next. But they've also enabled OpenGL ES 3.0 for hardware that supports it, as well as Bluetooth 4.0, which they're calling Bluetooth Smart. That's Bluetooth Low Energy. Essentially, items that take advantage of Bluetooth 4 are supposed to work with Bluetooth 4 now, although I did find a build of Android 4.3 for the Galaxy Nexus, and I've been running it ever since, and not all of my Bluetooth 4 devices appear to be working with it. At least the Fitbit app, it either doesn't realize that the Galaxy Nexus has Bluetooth 4 in it, or it just doesn't want to use it. But it is definitely communicating with my MetaWatch, so that's good. It was working before though, so it's really sort of hard to tell. And they've also added support for things like improved DRM so that companies like Netflix will have a little bit of an easier time getting their stuff DRM protected, because whoop-de-doo. And they've added the ability to have restricted profiles, though I'm not sure how that's going to work in reality. You've got the ability to have a sort of a parent mode where you've got the administrator that can control everything and then allow or disallow access to the other users. So you can have a child user, for example, where you only allow them to access certain portions of the game. You don't let them see the things that have in-app purchases on them. Honestly, this is something that has been necessary for a while. My son has a Nabi tablet, Nabi, however you pronounce it, one of those little kids tablets with the big rubber thing around it. And it does have a kid mode and a mommy mode that came built in from the company, but it's not quite perfect. So if there is a possibility of getting Android 4.3 on it, we can move more in that direction of thoroughly limiting in-app purchases, because we've had a couple of times where in-app purchases have gone through and they weren't supposed to. Now, some other stuff they mentioned during this press conference that didn't seem to make it into the story on the front page of the site. Google announced a couple of new devices. First up, the Nexus 7 is getting an update and a refresh. They're not calling it the Nexus 7 II or anything, it's just the new Nexus 7. It's going to have a 1900 by 1200 display now. It's going to have that same 7-inch display, but it's going to be a little thinner, it's going to be a little smaller because the bezels are going to be smaller. And they've moved away from the Tegra 3 processor to a Qualcomm processor. Because I don't have it in front of me, I'm not 100% on this, but I believe it's the Qualcomm S4 Pro. It's a quad-core 1.5 gigahertz, but again, do feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said, it's not on the portal and I don't have it written down. But it does come with 2 gigs of built-in RAM, so that's a big step up from the Nexus 7. OpenGL ES 3.0 support, so you can game a little bit better on it, hopefully, maybe. And additionally, they announced a new device. A device they're calling Chromecast. And essentially, it's like one of those little Android mini PC sticks that everybody's got at this point. But instead of being Android, it's running a very slimmed down, minimalized, specialized version of Chrome OS, where you plug it into the TV, you plug it into power, and then you can push stuff to it. You can use YouTube app or Netflix or your web browser or just all sorts of different things to push content to this device that's hooked up to your TV. So you can be watching a video on your phone or your tablet, hit a button, and it will directly stream over to your TV. Sounds an awful lot like Apple's AirPlay idea, but it works on Android and iOS and Windows and Mac, and I don't think it works on Linux, which is extremely unfortunate, but the fact that it works on Android, it's a step in the right direction, but I'm gonna see if I can get my hands on one and try it out with Linux as well, just to see if it would work. And the kicker for that, the device is gonna be $35. And actually, since I forgot to mention it, the Nexus 7 is gonna be available in a 16, 32 gig version and a 32 gig version with LTE, and those run between $229 and $349 depending on the spec that you get. But still, being able to get that little Chromecast device, going back to that, for $35 at Google Play, Amazon, or Best Buy, that's really not that bad of a deal when you consider what you can actually do with it. Because at this point you can just push videos and Netflix and browser tabs and things like that over, but long term you may be able to push HTML5 games over to it. You may be able to, there's a lot of possibilities for it. Now realistically, I want to get my hands on one. I'd like to see if you can dump the ROM off of it or whatever it's got on it off and try to stick it on one of the Android mini PC devices like the MK802 or the MK809 That would make it a lot more portable and not really any more affordable, but just another option to have if you've already got one of those sticks. Anyway, been on this story for entirely too long, let's move on. Now, along with Android 4.3 releasing, of course, we have lots and lots of builds that are going to be coming out for it through XDA, and the first of those Android 4.3 releases for a non-Nexus device has come to us from XDA developer admin Pulsar G2, thanks to Sony, for the Sony Xperia Z. Now, as with other Sony AOSP releases, there are no radios included, so if you flash to this, you're not going to be able to do calls and SMS and data. But if you know what you're doing and you know how to get those radios on there after the fact, you can go ahead and give it a shot. Read through the forum thread for all the details. And because I spent so much time talking about that Google event, let's go ahead and move on to the XDA specific news. 4 new forums were added this week. They were for the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini, the Galaxy S4 Zoom, the Galaxy Tab 3, and of course, Google Chromecast. Honestly, I have not had a chance to look at that one yet, so I might want to take a look at the Chromecast one before I go purchasing the device. Because honestly, if someone can dump the ROM off of it and I can stick it on an Android mini PC, then I may not even have to pick one up, because I've got a couple of those now. And additionally, 3 other videos were posted to XDA Developer TV this week. The first one by Kevin was talking about connecting to your Wi-Fi instantly using Insta Wi-Fi. And then TK did a video talking about a bunch of different great mods for the Samsung Galaxy S4. And then TK came back again to talk about securing your Android device against the master key exploit using a master key dual fix patch. So lots of great content, lots of great news this week, lots of updates and big stories. It's been a pretty good week. Anyway though, that's going to be about all for me for this week. If you like this video, do make sure to hit that like button down below, subscribe to receive our content as soon as it becomes available, and if you'd like to follow me, I've got the links to my channels down at the bottom of the video description, so you can always check down there. But thank you so much for watching one way or another, and I will see you again on Monday.